Government Order of the Day number 3.
Victims of Crime Reform Bill interrupted debate on second reading.
Members, the last time we were debating this, we were in the penultimate call. Jan Logie has that call. She has 3.5 minutes remaining, should she wish to utilise it. Jan Logie.
Mr. Speaker. The Green Party is supporting this bill because we support victims. But on the eve of International Women's Day, I need to challenge the government's grand claims to be taking crime and victims' rights seriously. When more than a quarter of New Zealand women are likely to experience domestic violence and sexual violence in their lifetime, we know we have a serious problem, and this is what drives crime in this country. We know that only 1 in 100 victims of sexual violence are likely to get a conviction in our courts. And we know that police are likely to be called out to an incident of domestic violence more than once every 10 minutes. This is the shame of our country. So what has this government done to support these victims that they claim to champion? Well, they've finally brought back this bill after 4 years languishing on the order paper. And they've resourced and paid for a resource around culture being not an excuse for abuse, which we think is fabulous, even though they've refused to increase funding to the much needed culturally appropriate services for victims. And they're thinking about putting cameras on police officers and GPS on some offenders and locks on some victims' homes. Never mind the fact when those victims have to put out the rubbish or their washing. And they've introduced sexual violence court offenders, though not in a way that met the Law Commission's recommendations. So that's the kind of package of what they've done. And then they've reversed 3 cabinet decisions that were aimed to help child witnesses. They've reduced access to legal aid, so now many women are paying thousands of dollars for protection orders. And they've failed to ensure that these very protection orders women are paying so much for are actually enforced by the courts. They've made changes to the family court to save money rather than fix the really well-documented problems for victims of domestic violence. They've introduced family court fees of almost $900. They've removed the Bristol clause that was meant to protect children from domestic violence. They've allowed police to change reporting so we can't monitor the statistics. They've stopped work on improving the court system for victims of sexual violence, even though there was so much support for a lot of the provisions in that. They've cut funding to sexual violence, though we hope to turn that round through the inquiry, but some organisations have fallen over in the meantime. They've failed to seriously fund sexual rape prevention education. They've allowed the numbers of perpetrators being referred to treatment to decline. They've effectively cut funding to refuges and have not recognised or supported the need for increased support in Christchurch. They've let the Family Violence Task Force basically stagnate, and Housing New Zealand evict victims of domestic violence for damages done by their abusers. The Green Party believes that all women and children have the right to be safe in this country, and that requires a comprehensive approach, not this piecemeal token, pathetic attempt to cover up inaction.
Mike Sabin.
Mr. Speaker, well, there's a very good speech about everything that this bill isn't actually about, and every member in this House